Welcome everyone to our weekly webinar where we are learning together about the latest real estate trends during the pandemic. As you can see, I'm streaming from a different place today. We will be talking about this location in our next webinar, and we'll invite some top brokers to help figure out the migration trends in the COVID world next week. Today, we're having an exciting panel on the most challenging problem, on my opinion, the challenging problem of the real estate today, which is the lack of inventory, with outstanding guests, Lane Hornung from Zavvie, the iBuyer aggregator, and Bill Lublin from Century 21st Advantage Gold. So happy to have these guests today. Thank you for joining us, Bill and Lane. The US housing market has begun to heat up as more buyers return to the market in July. The real estate market is even booming in many locations. The major problem, however, is the lack of inventory. And home prices rose during the pandemic and could increase even further due to heavy buyer competition and a significant supply shortage. Buyer demand is increasing, which we'll discuss why. But the major problem really today is the many sellers have yet to return to the market, and we will discuss how we can actually help those home buyers to become sellers. And obviously the other trend that is pretty interesting, curious right now is the iBuyer phenomena, which, as you know, they stopped to operate during the shelter-in-place announcement. Now they're back, so we'll discuss what this return looks like and how agents and iBuyers can coexist. Lane will show us a short demo. So once again, thank you so much, Lane. A little bit about you, CEO of Zavvie and a brokerage 8Z. His passion is helping consumers and professionals navigate the emerging world of instant offers and iBuyers. And Bill, thank you so much for joining us. Bill Lublin is the CEO of Century 21st Advantage Gold, Pennsylvania's largest Century 21st firm. He's a great leader who we always listen to during critical moments in our industry, active realtor and real estate investor with a love for technology. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. And why don't we start with kicking off with you, Lane, and your opinion on the current market trends. What do you see in the market? Do you think a real estate market crash is a possibility?
No, I don't, Natalia. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here to talk about the market, and it's so nice to be here to be able to talk about really great things in the market. I think a lot of markets across the country probably had a record month in July. A lot of brokerages, a lot of agents had record months, and so the markets are really rebounding. And probably 3 months ago, we didn't think we'd be sitting here. But I do think a crash is certainly not imminent. What's more likely is just a constriction of the market because we don't have enough inventory. We don't have enough product to sell. We don't have enough listings. It's like we're back in the COVID days and you're walking down the grocery store aisle, the toilet paper aisle, and half the shelf is empty. That's what I'm worried about in October, November, December.
Thank you, Lane. Bill, how about you?
I agree with Lane because I always try to agree with the smartest guy in the room, even if he's halfway across the country, 2/3. Lane made a really valid point. I think our market is being driven by supply and demand right now. It's not being overheated. The price is really the normal supply and demand thing because there's less of a supply and there's a great demand. Prices are being driven up, but that's normal. We have had no real surge of new construction since the 2008 recession. Like, that's 12 years where we have not had truly significant national new construction. And that means that we're working with really the same stock, but now we have this generation that is nesting, right? And there's just a ton of them. And they don't have new construction as the boomers had in the 1980s when they went through the same routine. So I agree. Where the market might slow would be in the number of units sold because of a lack of number of units. I think as we come out of the pandemic, however, I think you're going to find a lot of people, a lot of boomers selling. You know, we're a birth, death, divorce, and marriage marketplace. We're not San Francisco where tech fuels it. We're not DC where politics fuels it. We're not LA where the entertainment industry fuels it. So as people grow older, they want to build families, they need larger homes. As they get older and perhaps have mobility issues, they need smaller homes, one level. So I think we're going to see a continued press for demand. And I'm hoping at some point that new construction becomes more of a thing and opens that up so we don't have what Lane referred to as the stricture, the constriction of the market, so that we can, but I think we'll be fine either way. We'll continue to make a living.
Great. Thank you, Bill. And today my co-host is Nick Solis. Is a broker, owner, and the director of industrial relations at Propy. He will be helping me with hosting today, as well as giving his opinion on the topics we're discussing. And it's really fascinating to have four people from different locations having different perspectives on the trends that we're seeing now in the market. So Nick, can you please share the trends you're seeing in Silicon Valley and the new location which you are very active at right now?
So yeah, I'm in the Bay Area, and you know, we're one of the first places to start to shelter in place. So people said, okay, I'm willing to do this. And then 3 months went by and we said, you know, it's June, we can't wait to get out of the house. And then everything changed again for us. And so, you know, the people that were spending time in their second homes up in the mountains or, you know, in the foothills, they decided to either move there full time or they decided to sell and buy a home to be able to stay there. And so we've just seen a mass exodus out of, you know, the urban areas. San Francisco, if you look at what's on the market there, it's just absolutely insane right now. I don't work the San Francisco market, but obviously, you know, that's one of the big drivers of our area. And so something that I paid a lot of attention to. I was just talking to the folks across the street, kids the same age as ours, and they're saying, you know, we're thinking about going back to Ohio. We're thinking about maybe going up to Sacramento. We love our house here, but geez, you know, this really has us thinking. So, you know, we've definitely have the tech infusion here, but we have that same thing. You know, people's families are changing, people's living situation, and we have a lot of people here that work white collar type jobs where they don't need to be on site per se to be able to do their job. And so them being able to work remotely from a place that they used to spend their free time is something that's very appealing. So, you know, we got a chance to do a deep dive with both Bill and Lane, which was very, very insightful, right, Natalia?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
great session.
We had a lot of takeaways. Yeah, absolutely. And so Lane, you know, one of the things that I really found just incredibly fascinating was you had a quote. You know, you said something to the effect of, I think sellers really deserve all these options, but at the same time, I absolutely believe that the agent is the one that needs to be a part of this, right, and the center of it. And for somebody who's a big, you know, proponent of you know, what we do as realtors and as agents, I just thought that was just beautiful, man. And so, you know, there's a lot of people in fear of iBuyers and what they're going to do, and you know, if they're here to stay or not. And I just found what you guys are doing is, again, just super fascinating. You're saying, look, I don't know if they're here or not, but we're going to, you know, we're going to take advantage essentially and incorporate this into a system for our brokerage, empower our agents to be the center of this conversation, regardless of whatever avenue, you know, these sellers choose to go down. So, you know, Lane, with that, you know, can you dig in a little bit about what AZ is doing and what Zavvie's about, and potentially even show us just a couple of screen shares as to, you know, what that process looks like with you guys?
Yeah, absolutely, Nick. So yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. There's these new options being brought to the market, new ways to sell, and you know, they're mostly being brought forward by well-funded venture-backed startups with either billions in capital or hundreds of millions. And so there's some trepidation around that. But here in the Denver Boulder market, where some of these new iBuyers came to the market and subsequently bridge solution providers have come to the market, we've really come to the conclusion, these are just new options. They're new buyers in the market. They actually can address that gorilla in the room, which Bill alluded to. People are nesting. The average home ownership tenure has gone from 7 to 12 years. That's really what we're fighting as an industry. And unfortunately, we can't go out and build new houses, right? New construction may come along, but we can't really go out and build new houses. We have to figure out how to take existing homeowners who are just overwhelmed by selling and get them to think about selling. And frankly, the iBuyers and the bridge solution providers, they offer some new ways to sell, and they may appeal to some homeowners who think they're stuck. So let me show you what we're doing here at 8Z, my brokerage. And so hopefully everyone can see the screen. This is what we call 8Z Select. And it's all about
Lane, sorry, just before we dig in, just a little bit overview. So Lane owns a brokerage, a traditional brokerage, obviously tech-driven, utilizing many solutions, as well as he's the founder of aggregator of iBuyers solutions, which means that this platform, Zavvie, aggregates offers from Opendoor, Zillow, maybe Lane, you can add actually. For those folks that don't know.
So exactly, Natalia. You know, I'm the broker owner and I'm a realtor for 8Z. We're an independent in Colorado. Last year we did about 1.25 billion in volume with 160 amazing agents. And so as we looked around, we didn't want to just be like deer in the headlights and get disrupted. We're like, hey, what can we do here? So we built some software, which ultimately became Zavvie, which is a platform to empower agents to bring these new offerings to the table on behalf of their clients. And so the way it manifests for us here at 8Z, we call it 8Z Select. It's choosing how you sell. So open market, that's the standard way. We all know and love that way. Instant sale is selling to an iBuyer. Again, the iBuyers are just new buyers in the market. We find that about 19 out of 20 sellers will end up going the open market route. But for that 1 out of 20 of your clients, the instant sale may be a really good option for them because of the speed, surety, and convenience offered by the iBuyer. Understand, in our model, no matter who you sell to, how you sell, as the listing agent, you get paid a commission just like normal. You represent your seller. You go to bat for them. They only do this once every 12 years. So you take care of them. They want you in your corner. And typically you help them out on the buy side too. So that's the second option, is instant sale. We also have a bridge solution to allow a seller to buy before they sell, essentially solving that chicken and egg problem. I can't sell because I don't know where I'm going. That's what's happening in a tight inventory market. We call it the chicken and egg problem. And then finally, we have listing concierge, which is helping that seller who might be a little cash strapped and doesn't have the money for the carpet and paint to prep their property. We just front them that and bring our guys in to do it. So that's the program. And then I'll show you how the conversation we have around that real quickly is, we have a tool. It's called the Offer Optimizer, and we allow a consumer to sit down with their agent. Again, this is all based on having an agent at the center of the transaction. And so let me get to that on my screen
And
share.
I think you mentioned on the prep call that you actually white label this solution to other brokerages.
Yeah, we partner with over 40 brokerages around the country, everywhere from California to Massachusetts, and we've got over 30-some thousand agents. We like to think we're creating the modern agent. We're helping empower the modern agent. The modern agent isn't going to be disrupted. They're actually going to be more valuable as these new options come along as an advisor. So here the offer optimizer. This is a tool. Obviously, it's got 8Z branding here, but this is Zavvie underneath, white label, and we've got partners with, you know, Better Homes and Gardens, lots of great independents, Berkshire companies, Century 21. You know, we've got lots of different brokers and agents on the platform. And you put an address in, approximate home value, the condition of the home, and you hit the go button. As soon as I get my Zoom window out of the way, hit the go button here, and it populates. And this is just a really good conversation starter to have with your client. Here's what selling on the open market looks like. Here's what the details look like on that case. Here's what selling bridge looks like. Here's what selling instant sale looks like. These are estimates at this point, but they're based on real market data, real transactions in the market. And again, the consumer just needs to be advised. An agent who can bring all these options is the modern agent, in our opinion. So that's what it looks like.
And where you can pick up different options for iBuyers. You showed that last time.
Yeah, so our application, it's a smart application, so it knows what address I put in. I happen to put in a Boulder address here in Colorado. And so it's gonna tell me which iBuyers are active for that address. These are the iBuyers active in this location. And that varies obviously across the country.
Yeah. Open Door, Redfin Now, and Zillow.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Awesome. Fantastic. Yeah, I think it's a beautiful solution.
Lane, are you fueling your concierge and bridge markets, or are you using third parties for that?
A combination of both. Yeah, a combination of both, Bill.
Okay.
We have bridge partners, and with concierge, we do some of that in-house. Yes.
Right.
But there's a lot of new solution providers coming along. Zavvie has a partnership that was recently announced with a bridge provider called EasyKnock, national company.
We use them also.
Yeah.
We've been partners with them for several months.
Great.
Here. And Curbio, I think you know, who is an NAR Reach member of the Reach class with Natalia, we use for our concierge. So I wasn't sure whether you were reinventing the wheel or just aggregating, but it's I love what you've done with the Select. You have a message from me on your phone, by the way. So
okay. Yeah.
But no, it looks great. It's very smooth, and I love the comparison, because interestingly enough, with, you know, you said 1 out of 20. Zillow tells us that only 2.5% of their inquiries actually convert, and out of the remaining 97.5%. 40% take no action, leaving that 57.5% in the middle that will do something, but are not there for the iBuyer, right? They're probably going to convert, you know, to use. I think you should consider renaming the company 8Z, because when she said that, I really loved that.
Yeah, I liked when Natalia called us 8Z. We were, you know, we're always called 8Z, but I liked 8Z. That sounded
Yeah,
good.
I thought that was pretty neat. Natalia's always there to add a little extra spice and flavor to whatever we're doing. So it's what happens when you have smart people in the room.
Thank you for liking my mistake. Lane, we have a question here from Dana Scappa. Dana, thank you for your question, and thank you for being with us almost every single webinar. Lane, do you accept international brokers, agents, for example, Remax in Puerto Vallarta?
We do not yet. We are limited to the continental United States, but we do get inquiries from Alaska, Hawaii, and international. Puerto Vallarta sounds good to me. I love PV, so soon, coming next year. How's that?
Bill, you mentioned Zillow. Let's talk a little bit about their performance, and we had this little discussion with you, Lane, as well on the prep call.
Well, so I thought, not that the pandemic was fun earlier this year when we locked down, but it was, you know, we've been looking at iBuying in the industry for a while, and I wrote a course for the Florida Association on it. And one of the caveats I had was we've not seen them yet in a contracting or slower market. And all of a sudden, that was like the the brakes went on with the pandemic, and OfferPad and Opendoor are going, we're just kidding. We're not like that whole iBuying thing. We're busy. We have shelves to line and decks to build on our house and gardens to make. And Zillow actually started paying people $15,000 a pop to get out of the deal, because iBuyers are, as you know, and Lane and Nick know, they're very, very capital intensive. They're very labor intensive. They work on really small margins, and their costs are really intense. So Zillow was like, I know we said we'd buy your house, but take 15 grand and forget my phone number, right? Because I'm out of here. I thought that was, they've been very bold in the way they've pivoted into the space and the way they've leveraged the consumer's familiarity with the brand name to make themselves just a huge player, even though they came to the dance rather late. They were after Redfin, they were after Opendoor, they were after OfferPad, but they're a monster. People know the name. They're a very big group. But the contraction showed the danger of iBuyers. And while I think what Lane has done, and I actually think I said this to him in a private phone call a few months ago, I think it's absolutely brilliant, because I don't think iBuyers are ever going to be a large enough portion of our marketplace to disrupt the traditional real estate business. But I do think they will become the next version of a portal. They will be they'll be selling you seller leads instead of buyer leads. And Redfin will be generating their own and buying them from Zillow, and Zillow will be selling them to premier agents, and Opendoor and OfferPad and Zavvie and 17 other guys will morph into different methods of generating these seller inquiries. And we'll get back to what we had a couple of years ago, where we had 85.5 million buyer inquiries sold to realtors and only 5 million transactions in the entire country, from everything. Like mom and dad sold to their son is part of that 5 million, but we still paid for 80 million non-productive leads. And I think that's going to be the next step in that market. I mean, I guess I don't think we're at 2.0 yet in iBuyers. I think we're maybe at 1.2 or 1.4. We're past the original run, the Opendoor OfferPad. We saw Remax come in and go out. We've seen them make partnerships with franchises and then get rid of them. We've seen everybody grow very rapidly and then contract like a moth hitting a flame. But I don't think we've, you mentioned EasyKnock, which is a great bridge. There's a lot of fintech companies that are going in and out of that. And I think it's Opendoor. I always get confused between Opendoor and OfferPad because the names are they both start with O. But one of them has actually opened a suite of, they now have agents.
Yeah,
so if we don't buy it,
yeah,
we'll sell it. So it's that seller contact that I think is really a big deal in this whole thing. But I don't think agents need to run or worry. These are just, Morgan Stanley, I think, was looking, they originally said between 3 and 5%, and then said it might be as much as 10% by 2030. So if 10% of the market, I don't own 90% of the market now. I'm fine making money out of the remaining 90%. I'll carve my piece out of that, as will Nick and Lane and all of Propy's clients across the country.
I mean, I like to bring it down to the agent level, right? We can talk about Wall Street and the disruptors. Let's face it, Zillow, they're not going away. The iBuyers, they're not going away. Zillow just added $8 billion to their market cap post-COVID in the last 2 weeks. So they're here. They're going to be part of the market. They've been part of the market for a decade. As a brokerage, I've worked with Zillow for a decade.
Yeah, sure.
Down at the agent level, and I agree with Bill, it's, let's say 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20 sales are to an iBuyer. Well, if you're a modern agent, that means, if you do 20 deals a year, you probably look at your deals at the end of the year and you represented a seller. One or two of them sold to an iBuyer. You got paid for that. That's great. 3 or 4 of them maybe did a bridge solution. That's what unstuck them. That's what the path they chose to go down. You represented them. You got paid. That's great. And then, 15 just did the bread and butter traditional open market listing. You got paid for that. Great.
Well,
what a great time to be a realtor.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, Lane, that's what stuck out to me when we were doing our prep call, and just kind of talking about this, because, realtors typically either live in 2 camps, either in fear of everything that's coming out because it's going to remove them from the transaction, or they have their head in their sand and they're just saying, look, I'm good, right? Where the reality is, it's somewhere in the middle, right? And so how Bill laid out, we've been stagnant on transactions between, 4, 7 to maybe 5.5 million per year, right?
Yep.
But yet, that stat of 85 million leads was 2018. Since then, everybody's doubled and tripled down, all these big, lead companies, right? So, that stat's probably closer to 110 million now, but we're still at 5.5 million transactions. So just point being of, somebody's getting rich and it's not the brokers, right? And it's not the agents. But, if only, 3% of inquiries with Zillow are converted into the iBuy, then what are they doing with the rest? Well, obviously they're selling them as leads, right? And so, if I send you a postcard in the mail, or I gave you a call and say, hey, Lane, I'd love to be able to help you to try to sell your home. And you say, great, but I saw this ad on TV, or I got this postcard about somebody who will buy my house today, kind of sight unseen, no fuss. I'll get back to you, Nick. I have to now wait until you go through and talk to several different people to hope that you come back to me, or I have to bug you. Versus saying, you know what, Lane, I have those options too. In fact, let me screen share with you because, we're doing everything through Zoom nowadays, right? And boom, boom, boom. And we can have that conversation. And then if you're interested, I said, we could facilitate that conversation with X iBuyer and kind of see where that is, because you want to make sure that you're represented in this. And again, that's why I just, that whole, quote that you gave, it wasn't on purpose to kind of, start this, big saying, but it was saying, look, I think sellers deserve these options, but I absolutely believe that an agent needs to represent them in this. And there's this boom, light bulb right then and there, so it really fascinates me. And these aggregators aren't going anywhere. And so, I was talking to Bill yesterday and, we kind of agreed on it, but then at the same point, Bill went way deeper. I was saying, from what we're looking at right now with iBuying, it's one of the only industries where the more the more you do, the less you actually get economies of scale. It's almost as the more homes you buy, the more, dry rot you find that you didn't know about, and all these different things, the ups and downs of the market. And, the more homes you buy, the more money you lose. So they have to morph, like Bill was saying, into maybe a portal or something where they're aggregating out leads, or they're getting into title, escrow, mortgage, all these different services.
The ancillaries are really like, everybody, you talk about title insurance, okay? They buy title insurance going in, and they get title insurance, the buyer buys title insurance going out. So a high volume title company can retain 85% of the premium, for their operation. So they make the operation as automated as possible. Going in, they cut their costs by 85%. Going out, they receive the 85% as income. Mortgages are typically the cash cow of the transaction, right? I mean, really, really good mortgage people make way more than really, really good real estate people, because like money generates money, right? So they do different volume kinds of things. So now again, the company is cutting out the loan officer. They're retaining that money because they don't need the LO. They've got the buyer comes in to buy the house. By the way, we can finance it for you. So they're making more money there. So even if it's a loss leader, they have these other opportunities. And there's one other thing that's different. And Lane sort of put his head on it when he talked about, you know, the cap. Like, and I said this to you yesterday, Nick, and to Natalia, and I think Lane will agree with this. My company cannot be unprofitable. That's not okay with me. I come to work every day because my company is profitable, and my compensation for coming to work is the profit of my company, right? Zillow doesn't have to be profitable. You know, they're a public company. They did an IPO. They made gazillions in the IPO, and now they're responsible to their shareholders, who keep looking at quarterly statements that say, well, we didn't make any money, but we still have the stock, and the stock's going up. So they're, as long as they have velocity, as long as they continue pivoting, as long as they're out in the news and people keep buying their stock, they're good to go. You know, I mean, but Lane and I got to make a living, and you, Nick. I mean, you know, I need to have something left in the bank account at the end of the week. Just saying.
So you put myself and Propy in the bucket of the startups that.
Well, no, I'm saying that my company is a business that I operate to make a living. I'm not looking. I mean, I have an exit strategy, of course, but I didn't go into it to have an exit strategy. But we talked yesterday about the fact that typically startups or any of these disruptors come into the business, they get VC money, and the VC wants to know what's the exit, where's the payday? Because the VC is investing in 12 companies, hoping that 3 of them blow up 10 times, and then they don't care about the other 9 where they lost money, right? So then it becomes either it's an IPO or it's a purchase, right? I mean, you know, Zillow bought Dotloop, okay? The people that created Dotloop, who are wonderful people and friends of mine, they made big bank. You know, they got tons of money. They went out and opened a wine canning business and started racing cars and learning to fly, and life was good.
Oh yeah, I love all the startups. I love startups like Propy because you know, when we talk about the modern agent, I think the modern agent, I said 20 deals a year. The modern agent's going to do 40. And it's because of companies like Propy that are making us more efficient, you know, making it easier to be a realtor. You're also bringing a lot of transparency to the process, and that any kind of transparency for the consumer makes my life as a realtor actually easier. Sure. And so I applaud you for the problem.
Oh, no, but I'm waiting for you to come and pick me up. When you sell Zavvie, I'm waiting for you to come and pick me up in your private jet.
Yeah.
And then we'll go and we'll meet Natalia.
I think we'll be riding in Natalia's. So
well, I'm just saying, you know, Natalia will have her IPO, and she can pick us all up. I mean, I'm not saying that those are bad things. I'm just pointing out that they're different business goals when you come in every day to work. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, the startups, when we take a look back at, we were talking about Trulia. Right, Trulia started before Zillow, and Trulia and Zillow went head to head for the first few years, and then Zillow won. Right, and I'm making air quotes because it's really important. They bought Trulia, so the guys that worked at Trulia got paychecks. They got big money, and they went out and opened a venture capital business. I mean, they went out like the loser. Made out really well in that event, and good for them, by the way. They should have. They worked really hard.
And actually, Open Door, the founder of Open Door, also he's coming from the Trulia Mafia, as they say themselves. Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, that's good stuff, but it's just different. The things that realtors, I think, miss when they look at startups. They should be looking at what Lane said. Will this make me faster? Will it make me more effective? Can I make more money? How do I use this? And again, Zavvie's a perfect example. Oh, iBuyers? Yeah, and this is, I'm going to compliment Lane, for a minute. iBuyers, great. How do I use it? Not I'm scared, oh my God, they're going to, how do I use it? And created a path where I love the whole select program. Yeah, you want traditional, we got that. You want an iBuyer, that's cool. You want to paint it and sell it, we can do that. Or you want some money to go look, we got it all for you right here. That's why nobody's putting Lane out of business. Nobody's going to put me or Nick out of business. That realtors with that mindset where we bring value to the process, we're always going to figure out a way to make the tools work.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, you know,
Let's get onto the next topic actually, because as Bill, you mentioned, there's a new approach, not a relatively new approach to boost innovation with venture capital money, right? It's one approach. Then the other approach is to run the traditional business. And we're all united in the mission to make the consumer life better, right? Regardless of why we come together every single day at work, whether it's to be profitable today or actually to accomplish the exit or whatever investors are pushing the founders to do. In the end of the day, we all want our consumers to succeed. And the largest problem of the real estate industry today, for me, is I think we are artificially increasing the prices of real estate. And right now we're just living in this bubble just because the sellers are not ready to sell. We cannot, as a real estate community, we cannot affect the construction to suddenly deliver the inventory in the next 12 to 24 months. But what we can do is we can encourage the agents to help those landlords, those home builders, to actually capitalize on this current trend of prices going up and the current trend of migration, and really prepare them to be the seller so that we have a healthy dynamic on the market. So Lane, maybe we will start with you. Like, what are your top tips for agents, how they can really turn the modern agents, as you say, how they can
the modern agent.
Yeah, the modern agent.
You know, I think if I'm an agent sitting here listening to this, what I would do is I would be looking at my database. Pull up my database of past clients who predominantly are homeowners. That's why they're past clients. And I would categorize them. I would think about, you probably know them well enough. I would say, is this person, one, do they have a lot of equity? And that list will probably be ding, 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 ding. Everyone on the list will probably have equity. And then I might say to myself, why are they stuck? Why aren't they thinking about selling? And is it because they're worried about where they'd move to? Or is it because they took a financial hit during COVID, they lost a job? Or is it because the thought of selling is just too overwhelming for them? They've got kids, they've got dogs, they've got parakeets, and the idea of getting their house ready, opening it up so strangers can walk through it during a COVID makes their head explode. So I would categorize them, and then I would say, I'm going to call 5 of them today, and I'm going to say, hey, here's a pro tip. Here, it's really complicated. Here's the script. Hey, haven't talked to you in a while. Want to check in. Hope your family's doing well during COVID. I think you've probably heard by now that the real estate market is kind of on fire. There's a lot of demand and not a lot of homes on the market. Prices are going up. I want to tell you, during COVID, my brokerage and myself, we were actually pretty busy. We were actually busy coming up with some new ways that you might sell, some ways to make it easier. And I know you're not in the market to sell, but I want you to know about these just so you can tuck them away and think about it, because I care about where you and your family are in your life. And you should at least know what options are available to you right now. And why don't we get on Zoom and I'll tell you about them. And that's it, and then all of a sudden you're having a conversation about selling with a homeowner. And that's how a homeowner moves from being a homeowner to being a seller. You know, I always, as a realtor, I always said to myself, how do you move a buyer on the sidelines who's, I'm not buying, I'm not, you know, I'm good. How do you get them active? You show them a great house. I mean, I had clients that went from, I'm not buying, to writing a contract. They weren't buying in the morning and they were under contract that evening. Similar thing with sellers. How do you get a homeowner to get off the sidelines and become a seller? You show them some options and maybe even show them some offers, some actual cash offers, and they go, let's talk about this a little more. That's what I would do, Natalia. That's what my agents are doing.
I love listening to good scripts. I really do. I love listening to people that know what the phone call, like, you know what the phone call is going to be, right? We talked yesterday when we were talking about it. And for me, we go back to a couple of old school tricks. One of them is looking at people that have been in their home longer than the statistical average and just soliciting that area. I mean, just work that marketplace. But what I have them doing in Philadelphia, because of eviction moratoriums, you know, the COVID issue, you know, with such a large portion of the single family rental investors in the United States are mom and pop people, you know, 25, 30% of them. Excuse me, they own one or two additional properties, is to take the units that are for rent in the market. And I just had one of my agents call me this afternoon. And I said, it's very simple. You call up, you go, Mr. Hornung, I noticed that you have a property for rent. I don't know whether or not you're aware of how crazy the market has been. I was wondering, have you ever thought of selling the unit instead of renting it in today's market where showing is so dangerous? And the answers are really simple. No, I'm not interested in doing that. I love investing. I'm actually looking for something else. Gee, Mr. Hornung, that's great. I would love to talk to you about what you'd like to buy and see what I can find for you. The second thing they might say is, yeah, you know what? It's like really creepy. People call me up to come in the house. I don't know where they've been. I don't know if they're coughing or sneezing or whatever. And you can offer them, we actually suggest to our agents that they offer them information on our protocols, how we show the things we do to stay safe, the things we would recommend for our sellers to stay safe, for them to, and you know, it makes it complicated. Back in the day with for sale by owners, there were coaches who would suggest you take them the agreement of sale and addendas and all the forms just to like freak them out. This is everything we do. And I thought you might need the forms. Well, if you give them the COVID forms, the COVID safety forms in Pennsylvania, and a copy of the other documents, and let them know about the eviction moratorium, are you okay with that? I think the opportunity, I'm an investor. I own a number of properties, and as properties are becoming vacant, if the prices have exceeded the rate, the increases in rentals, they're going for sale, you know, and they're selling rather quickly because we've already made them rent ready, so they're, you know, they're in decent shape. Why not? So I think that's a great. I think the current tenants, the current renters, are a really good source. Many of these people are having difficulty with recalcitrant tenants. They don't know what to do with them. They can't evict them, and they need some help. And we can provide creative ways for them to come up with cash to get help, to find money in the meantime. So I think that's a great source.
Yeah, I think it's a really great approach to the education of home buyers, because obviously they have never heard of the word iBuyers. Whenever I talk to people that are not in real estate industry, they're curious to learn what is that. Okay, it's like iPhone, but this is iBuyer, and they absolutely like have no idea what we're talking about. It's a great idea, Bill, to actually look at the list of real estate investors and to see if they're ready to sell some items from their portfolio, as well as whenever we come to home buyers and homeowners and educate them on the policies that it's not dangerous. We can today, utilizing the technology to show the home in a safe environment without the risk to get COVID. We can do virtual tours. With Propy, as you know, we've developed the offer management system, which allows the seller to receive the offers instantly from buyer's agents. And thus there is no necessity to sit on one table to look through all the offers and compare them, because we just deliver it automatically. Then obviously all this huge potential with iBuyers in the markets that they're active, with the solution that Lane offers, it's really an outstanding opportunity to tell to the seller, hey, you even have the option to your house to be bought right away instantly. And thus it's all about education on my opinion, on how exactly, not only to source the listings, but also how to convince the seller to go with the modern agent that will be able to offer all those options, and then the selling process to be easy. And we're still having few more questions about iBuyers, and then one question regarding migration. So what are the trends relating to iBuyers and commercial properties? Question from Aaron Ploshansky.
The iBuyers really haven't moved into commercial, and I don't anticipate that happening anytime soon. They tend to look for inventory that is fairly homogeneous, and they're not looking for complicated renovations or repairs or complicated properties. And commercial properties tend to be more complicated.
Even in the simplest, I totally agree. There's no buy box. There's no easy look. Where iBuyers began, they began in areas where there were just tons of tract homes, because they were, it's where I am in the mid-Atlantic states and in the Northeast, we're like kryptonite for iBuyers. It's not that they won't be here, but it's tough because our housing stock is very old in some instances. People have done different things over 50 or 60 years. They're not sure of what they're going to see before they get in. So they'll be here, but the process will be different here than it is in Tampa or Phoenix, or places where the homes are 30, 40 years old and they were all built by the same guy. And, there are like 4 layouts in the whole city. We're a little bit different than that. So I don't think commercials, there will be some version of it though. There will be a commercial startup, because why not, right? Somebody will try it, but I think it'll be hard for it to get traction.
Yep,
I haven't even figured out the MLS yet, frankly, the commercial industry. So just saying.
Yeah, there's a long way for a commercial to go, right? I just came from my old space, and it's all vacant right now. The only people that are in business are the bike shop, and there's a line out the door and around the block. But all the restaurants are closed, everything's out of business, and the landlord's just begging me to come back, and I'm saying there's no need, right? There's a couple of things that got touched on by Bill and Lane, and Natalia as well. We're talking about these startups. There was a stat that got thrown out, I believe it was 2019. There was more money spent from venture capitalists trying to get into the real estate industry that year than all the other years combined, right? And so, startup, we're going to do this. But the constant thing that I've heard and seen is that we're going to create a way to disintermediate the agent, to basically remove them from the transaction, whether it's through an app or a button or, just a simplification of a process. But Lane and Bill, you guys know that the process is not easy, and it's not something that could be fully automated, right? But one of the things that I'm most excited about is when we look at companies like Zavvie, when we look at companies like Propy, which is what got me interested in joining, when the conversation is not, I want to just intermediate the agent, but I want to be able to empower the agent, make them more efficient, more transparent, more powerful, and give them more options. So Lane, one of the things that you were shooting for, and I hope I'm not, sharing a trade secret, but you said, I love for my agents to be able to chop down the escrow from 30 days to 27. So just looking at the transaction like that, right? Saying it's more efficient, faster, because then they could do more, right, with that same amount of time. And, when I was talking to Natalia about Propy, it was, the agent's the center of this, but there's some things that we could streamline through an automated process so they don't have to feel inundated with sending out calendars and, all these different reminders. We could keep everyone in the loop. You don't have to answer as many questions as the agent because your client has all these documents and they're able to see the checklist and the flow. And so, I'm just kind of curious, with both Bill and Lane, what type of technology solutions do you guys see that can come in and empower agents as opposed to remove them? And so, Lane, I guess really what I'm interested in hearing from you when you answer is, what prompted you to get involved with, creating Zavvie and, kind of launching that? And then Bill, what opportunities do you see for us to be able to, again, strengthen the agent's role or the brokerage's role, but to, use that technology in that startup fashion? So I guess, Lane, let's go start with you.
Yeah, Nick, for me, I like technology that does one of two things. It either generates new business or it makes my realtors more efficient. We have a big, hairy, audacious goal of BHAG at 8Z. We're trying to get to 30 transactions per year, per agent across the board, per license, not teams, not like per license. And we've got a little ways to go, but we're getting there. And so when you talk about, when Natalia talks about, hey, reducing the escrow time, the under contract, the time from under contract to close from 30 to 27 days, doesn't sound like a lot, but to me, that translates into one extra deal for all my agents and, a bigger paycheck for them, happier agents, happier Lane, and they won't even feel that extra transaction, is my belief. They'll actually not feel like they're working harder because it's a lot of little things that add up that make them feel a little overwhelmed. And I love I love your approach, which is, let me take each of those little nigglers, those little, like property offer management, properties offer management. That's a real thing. Like, we've been in a multiple offer situation in Denver for a long time now. And instead of having agents having to figure out how to make a spreadsheet, how to sort it, why not have a tool that does it for them? I love that, and straight from the buyer's agents. Because when you get 30 offers, that's a lot of work to even take the data and put it in a spreadsheet. And when an agent is doing that, they're making about $15 an hour. When they're doing their real job, which is the art part of the business, they're making $300 or $400 an hour. So that's how I look at it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, what he said. What he said. Well, of course. Look, I agree with Lane. I mean, for me, if any expense, any expense in the business either has to be about efficiency or lead gen, creating additional profit in one way or another. I think it's really a little too simplistic to say, what do you see that's going to do that? I think we're looking at compression of the transaction, but that's a lot of stuff. That's how do we handle earnest money deposits? I think Propy is a solution for that management and for the offer management are great tools. But nobody is ever like the whole marketplace. It's just there have to be tendencies. When I got started in the business, the average sale was 90 days to close. 60 days was, just a little quicker. And at 30 days, that was a cash deal. Now, on the transactions we get, everything is 30 days. And then they push it out to 40, 45 days because the mortgage company can't deliver in time and the appraiser didn't get out or the underwriter was slammed or somebody else was busy. They're padding time and buying time in that. Or the title search had to be done and that wasn't brought back. Where I think we'll see more compression is when those things are solved more readily. Not having to appraise at a certain price point really simplifies the process, right? So I think that's where we'll see compression efficiencies. But I think I'm I think Lane and I are probably real similar in this. I'll try anything with a plug or a battery or, an internet connection. Let me try it. Let me see how it works. But, not everything works. I mean, I remember back in the day hiring videographers to go through a house to, and this is many years ago, to create videos for houses before virtual tours. Like the MLS couldn't take virtual tours. We were doing it to go on local cable. It just doesn't make sense. And it fell apart at the time because the technology hadn't caught up with the idea, right? So the idea always comes first, then comes the technology, and then comes the regulation of that thing, because the laws are always chasing, right?
The adoption, which is the major part of the innovation, especially in our industry. So
right.
We're wrapping up for today. We have 2 more questions, and I hope we'll have time for the final thoughts from you, Bill, Nick, and Lane. So Merlin Weaver, thank you so much, Merlin, for
hi, Merlin.
Yeah,
it was just Merlin's birthday yesterday.
Oh, really? Happy birthday!
Merlin's a home slice for me. He's a local Pennsylvania realtor. Good guy.
Yeah, and he actually says hi to you, Bill and Nick. I think he knows you guys personally. He's our dear customer, so very, very thankful to Merlin for being active and asking questions. So the question is, OfferPad is offering up to 3% referral to agents who present a home for them to make an offer on if they do not put it on the market. Why is that on the MLS actually? Yeah.
Yeah, I can hit that one, Natalia. And good question, Merlin, because OfferPad has come out with a 3% referral. And this is with my realtor hat on. I'm very particular about my clients. I like to keep my clients close to me. I worked hard to build my book of business. So I generally always start with the proposition of I'm going to help my client unless I'm they're in another market or they're somewhere else where I have to refer them. And then I'm only going to refer them to very trusted, an individual I know. So OfferPad is, and I think it's a compelling offer from OfferPad, a 3%, referral. But the way we work at Zavvie is you keep your client. You keep your client and you get paid by your client. I'm not going to say you get paid 3% because there's no standard commission, but let's say you get 3%. You get paid 3% by your client. I believe a client should be represented. I think they're willing to pay you to represent them. I think selling to OfferPad could be great, but I'm going to keep my client and I'm going to represent them. If they end up selling to OfferPad, wonderful. I'm going to keep them because I also want to help them on the buy side typically. They're a buy sell. So, and generally my client wants me to stay with them. They might look at me a little weird if I said, hey, bye-bye, I'm referring you. They'd look at me like, Lane, what happened? We were close. We were tight. Like we did 5 transactions. Now you're just like, see ya? Good luck. Yeah. So I'm going to keep them. I'm going to get paid my 3%, and maybe maybe OfferPad puts a great offer on the table and I recommend they take it and we all win.
But I think OfferPad is just trying to get, like every other investor in the world, even the ones that work with the largest spread, they want the off-market opportunity first. So I think, as I'm sure you would, because I agree with you, the client and the client's best interests are number one. So I would say, look, we can go to them, but you'll only know what they're going to offer you. The open market has the potential for offering you far more, or not. And
I totally think OfferPad's onto something. They're smart. The best time to get your seller an instant offer is pre-market. That's how we operate at Zavvie. That's in our playbook. That's when it's the best option for seller and iBuyer. That's when they're more likely to come together. Right. And that's frankly where the iBuyers add the most value. Like, get the offer before your seller goes through the hassle of kicking their kids out of the house and getting the carpets cleaned and the dogs, have to go somewhere else. Get the offer early. And maybe it's a sometimes we see offers that are like, wow, take that. That's a great offer. Take it. Save all the hassle.
Yeah, that's the essence of the iBuyers, actually, to be useful before the open market.
Yeah, don't go through all the hassle and then get the offer.
Yeah, because then also it's a pretty high fee to actually accept an offer from iBuyers. So we have a question from Dan from Boston, and it's a question that actually relates a lot to our next webinar, which will be on migration trends, but let me still ask it. So it's time for a secondary home market, Dan believes. How can we connect millennials with baby boomers, rather invest in a vacation home, perhaps? Condominiums, are condominiums in the cities experiencing a price depreciation? Well, we can see that in San Francisco, but maybe beyond San Francisco. What are your take on the migration, and then maybe the final words to wrap the conversation today?
Well, we're seeing migration from New York to Philadelphia because we're far more affordable. Our South Jersey shore cities are seeing an influx of people who are buying places because they can't go anywhere. You know, I mean, this would be, typically in August, this time I'd be in Europe. You know, I take 2 trips during the summer, one at the beginning of the summer and one at the end. And Facebook keeps reminding me that I'm not in Europe. But where I am each weekend is at my place at the shore. So I get to walk on the beach. I get to watch Netflix in a different bedroom. You know, it's nice. So I think there's, and Nick was talking about the market in Tahoe getting the same kind of thing. So I think they're seeing price appreciation and demand is high there as well. Same deal, more demand, less supply.
Yeah, what we're seeing in Colorado is, you know, shameless plug for Colorado. I'm looking out my window. I could walk out the door and hike up an 8,000 foot mountain for 5 miles and breathe COVID-free air the whole way. It's a good place. But what we're seeing in the resort markets, there was just a home that sold in Vail. A friend of mine happened to be the realtor on it. $57 million sale, highest sale in Vail ever. And it was a local Front Range person moving up from Boulder actually to Vail. So what we're seeing is people want to come to Boulder, Denver from maybe East Coast, West Coast, but the people in Boulder, Denver might want to go up to the mountains. So we're seeing a little bit of a leapfrog effect to more urban or less urban settings.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Bill and Lane and Nick. It was a pleasure to have you today. I think our folks learned a lot from you, and we're looking forward to connecting with you in the future. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure.
Pleasure.